Hello, everybody. Today I'm here with a multi-award winning singer and songwriter, Christina Martin. How are you doing, Christina?
Good, thanks, Iona. You look really beautiful.
Oh, that's very sweet. It's
Yeah.
leftover curls from the night before. So I'm so delighted that it's week one and we're all presenting you. My first question is, how excited are you to be on Global Music Match? This is a really new thing for all of us.
Yeah, really excited because, well, what's cool about this is like when we tour, right now it's not possible to really be touring. And even when we tour, we sometimes our favorite part on the tour is when we get to meet another artist. We're sharing a show with them. And but still it doesn't happen that often, but it's so cool. And so this is just a great way to meet so many more artists. And everybody on our team, I probably all the artists that are involved in this are doing really great things, inspiring things. So it just makes me want to keep on this, what I call the path with heart, and not give up. And so when I watch like what you're doing and everybody in our team, yeah, it just kind of reminds me of why we do this. And what a privilege it is really to be able to, it's cool. So it's a great reminder of all the reasons to keep going and build connections.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I put some questions on my iPad because I was like, if I just had my brain, then I would ask all the wrong questions. So, you've had a really interesting career, but also a very interesting life in the fact that you've dotted about quite a lot. So, you were raised in the east coast of Canada, moved to Austin in Texas, moved to
Hmm.
Germany for a wee bit, back to
Hmm.
Texas, and then you kind of made Nova Scotia your home in Halifax. And I think we as musicians, we're so inspired and influenced by our surroundings and our cultural identity. What has it been like
Yeah.
living in two or three very significant places in terms of musical culture and history? How has
Hmm.
experiencing these environments influenced your musical development?
Good research. Good questions. My gosh. Well, I feel like the first half of my life, maybe even more, three quarters, I was living fairly unconscious, like unconsciously. Like I wasn't really aware of the effect that my surroundings, where I was, had on my songwriting. I guess I just didn't think about it. But once I made the decision to do music full time, about it was about over a decade ago. Um, and people started asking me more questions, and it really forced me to think about that. And now looking back over 2 decades, when I started in Austin, Texas, for example, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that's where I first heard storytellers with acoustic guitars, holding the attention of an audience for 2 hours or more. And I remember being in the audience of some of those shows, just watching solo performers and thinking, I would love to be able to do this, to make these connections, between the audience and also just not just only the connections, but um, finding my own voice and being able to share that and be heard. And so Austin had a really big impact and still does on my songwriting. The My earlier songs were very much like, I guess they still are, narrative and very personal. And so I was influenced by the songwriters, and I suppose Americana, alt country at the time. It was becoming more popular. Americana wasn't really a term that was thrown around too much back then, but the singer songwriters like Patty Griffin, Sean Colvin, Steve Earle, Lucinda Williams, Emmylou Harris. But then growing up, I was a huge fan of pop and rock. And I fell in love with artists through music videos. So Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Bruce Springsteen, Tina Turner, the Eurythmics. So there was part of me wanted to be like them in their performance in the music videos, and these commanding, beautiful, big voices. And then there was the influence of the more, I suppose, Americana singer songwriters that really had a story to tell. So this, I think, over the years, for me, I've evolved into like my songwriting is a mix of the storytelling, but then I have a little bit more to the lean towards the pop rock influences that I love. So let's simplify these stories and just pick the compact, powerful messages. That's what I think I strive to do more of now. So if I'm writing a love song, I really want that message of love to come shining through. In the beginning, it was really just a purge. I needed to get things out and figure out how do I feel about relationships and these things that are causing me maybe suffering or pain, and I was getting that out in songs. And now, I mean, the longer you do this, you hopefully grow and evolve, and I hope that I can get better at kind of I guess honing in on my craft and delivering more powerful universal messages. That's my goal now with the songwriting anyway. But certainly living in Nova Scotia, um, I've noticed, over many years, I didn't initially, that some of the surroundings here, where it's very wide open spaces, a lot of water, the ocean and waterways, lakes, and sometimes that comes out, and it's just more like it'll be like a story combined with, the environment occasionally. So yeah, I'm noticing that more and more. But in the beginning, I was clueless. I didn't. I probably, in defiance, wouldn't have even admitted that my environment and had anything to do with it. But yeah, it is. It does.
That is so, so interesting. Certainly, when I moved from rural Aberdeenshire to Glasgow, only when I moved to
Hmm.
Glasgow did I realise how important it was where I grew up and all the stories and songs. But it's very interesting because whenever I meet someone, who says, "Oh yeah, I was in Nova Scotia," the first thing that comes to mind is trad music, step dance, Gaelic. So it's really, I
Mm.
mean, culturally, it's an incredibly important place in terms of having Scots culture there as well, and of course their own kind of Celtic colours thing. I've always wanted to go to Nova Scotia, so I'm
Hmm.
very jealous of the surroundings that you're in. You mentioned some of the people and artists that you kind of aspire to. You said in an interview, well, not an interview, in a live performance a couple of years back in an introduction, you say that you learned how to sing by imitating some of these kind of rock and pop iconic artists such as Tom Petty, Stevie Nicks, David Bowie, Tina Turner, Whitney Houston,
Hmm.
Roy Orbison.
Yeah.
It's quite a diverse range of musicians to emulate or imitate. Who would you say is your kind of standout ultimate musical hero? I know that's a silly question, but usually I'm just always thinking
It's not.
about that.
It's no. It's not really. I mean, I've always been obsessed with Tina Turner and got to hear her in concert, and I don't profess to be like her at all. But I mean, I definitely, yeah, as a young, I wasn't a performer, or before the age of 20, really. But when I was younger, I would privately try to emulate her, um, and Annie Lennox was a big one too, Whitney Houston, and just in private, I would sing along, and it was even now I recognize that breathing, learning how to breathe through song, because I'm somebody who, from a young age, learned to. I was very, very, I think, anxious and would hold my breath, and so I think singing is one of those things, breathing through singing and singing along with some of these artists. And there's like, the resonance that you feel in your body. And it was such a calming thing for me but I only did it in private. I would never do it in public. Um, and yeah, I don't know that for some reason these artists, like, you listen to some artists and it's as if they're speaking to you. They have that power, and so I just didn't think, oh, if I just practice along and emulate these singers, someday I'll be able to sing. It was really just I think a meditative, something that I just really purely enjoyed, the love of singing. But I wasn't again, I wasn't not conscious of that any of this was happening and that it was saving my life growing up. Who knew?
Um, Well, I think that your voice, it's got such quality about it, and it's got such a universal and accessible sound. Um, I totally love your cover of Winner Takes All. Absolutely love it. I mean,
Thank you.
it's just gorgeous. A question that came out of me watching that video was, if you could collaborate with any artist or band, like who would it be? Any genre, any band, let us know.
Well, I did always dream of collaborating with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, but unfortunately that's not possible anymore. I mean, like, my problem is I have always dreamed like the untouchable artists that I would love to collaborate with, or Jeff Lynne, I suppose he's still alive, but probably untouchable. And, I mean, there are plenty of incredible artists that are probably more open to and have the time and are not bombarded by thousands of people wanting to work with them. But I guess I live in a little bit of a bubble. But like, I mean, I think I wrote it a letter or in it via email to like Annie Lennox's team once, asking if she might mentor me, because Cyndi Lauper's another one. Chrissy Hind, I mean, Stevie Nicks, like these powerful female role models who still are kicking ass, not only musically, but in terms of their charity work, what they stand for, and I think trying to figure this stuff out on your own is important, but it's mentors are so critical and important. I mean, I've had a number of them over the years, personal friends and people in the music industry, but yeah, like, I mean, I I think, I mean, I would love to collaborate like with Cyndi Lauper or Annie Lennox, and I never got a response back from Annie Lennox. But again, it's just because she's so busy, and she's probably, I heard her do an interview, or sorry, not an interview. She did a little post on Instagram saying she was like going to retire, and then COVID happened, and she really felt called back to say something to people, and she's been posting songs and messages, powerful messages, and but I imagine like people at some point just kind of want to totally step away and stop answering emails and whatnot.
I feel like that now, and I'm just 22, and I'm just like, what a step
Yeah,
away.
you're very busy.
Annie Lennox is from Aberdeen. Did you know that?
Oh, I should know that. I know she's from Scotland, but that's really cool. So is there like a statue of her?
There should be. There
Yeah,
definitely should be.
yeah,
We
yeah.
should, we should push for that. But no,
I would,
he's
yeah.
from Aberdeen. Yeah, one
Sign
of
me up.
his finest. It's really great. Like growing up in Aberdeenshire, so many great role models, whether that be in the
Yeah.
traditional music scene or in pop. We have Annie Lennox and also Emily Sandé is from Aberdeen. You know the song that's like next to me. Okay, I can't sing that, but
Whoa. Okay, I'm gonna check it out. But that you can sing it, you guys.
no.
You definitely, and you're alongside them of one of the best. Like that's pretty cool. Anyway,
Would need a
that's what I think.
genre change to be up with them. Anyway, this is quite interesting. You have worked as a supporting vocalist and a dancer for rock band Young Heart Attack in 2001. How on earth was this experience? I mean, I struggle getting through a gig just standing up singing folk music. We don't dance about that much. I'm in awe. Um, what was it like?
Well, that's so funny. It's interesting that you brought that up. So when I moved to Austin, it was sort of a time in my life where I really was open to following my dreams and trying new things, even though I was terrified. And I always wanted to be like an Ikette, backing up like Tina Turner. And I wasn't a trained dancer, but I love to dance like a lot of people. And this opportunity came along just through being open and meeting people to join this band called Young Heart Attack. And it was a bit of a super group at the time. I was just coming into Austin. I wasn't well known at all. And these musicians were fantastic. And it was me and another singer, Jennifer, and think she might still be in the band. Long story short, it was fantastic. And I think our first public show was at South by Southwest, and it was packed, and it was like a very hype event, and just great. Like it's basically a '70s rock revival kind of band, but playing original songs. And it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of freedom to being a support, playing tambourine and dancing, and not at that time my guitar skills were very minimal, and and yeah, just learning to be kind of in a band and work with the team. I find it very different than having to be in the lead and carry a whole show is a lot different and a lot more pressure, I find. Long story short, I was kicked out. Initially, Jennifer was kicked out, but talked her way back in. And then I was kicked out without being told, and I found out. And the reasons were hilarious. When they were trying to kick Jennifer out, they were saying, "Well, you're rock and roll. We want you to stay in the band, obviously." And I didn't support kicking out Jennifer because she was fantastic and we had a lot of fun. And then she stayed, and then they decided to kick me out. And I won't get into the reasons, but it actually was beneficial to me because I was able to focus on finishing my first record and my own solo performances. And I really needed to work on that for many, many years. I started, I feel, late. I mean, I was at that point 20, 22, and I really hadn't developed a sense of, confidence for my own voice or even what the heck I was doing and why I was doing it. So it just was a little bit of a shock, but it was good for me, I think,
And
to
I
be
do
kicked
think
out.
it must have been good, because just about a year and a bit, your second record did incredibly well. So I mean, you almost instantly saw the benefit of being able to go off on your own way, really.
Well, it took me a while. I actually, between being kicked out of the band and then putting out my first record, which I had no idea what I was doing in Austin. I took a break, to go back to university and finish my degree in Halifax. So I moved back to Canada. I got married, my first marriage, to a wonderful Austin musician, and we came back to the East Coast. That's how I basically settled back in Nova Scotia in East Coast Canada. I grew up in New Brunswick, the next province over. And um and I took many years where I still didn't know how to make a go at music, but there were other wonderful musicians in Nova Scotia that were making a go at it. And then I discovered there were financial support, workshops. And so it was around 2007. I was going to quit. I was going to become a cruise sales specialist. And a number of people that popped up and were like, don't do that. And ended up really giving, like, saying, okay, I'm going to go 100% into this music industry, and learn as much as I can. And I was inspired by the other, particularly the female singer songwriters in this area, like Jen Grant, who's also part of Global Music Match, Rose Cousins, Jill Barber, Megan Smith, and seeing what they were doing, and that, it was working. They were doing it themselves, and growing their own solo career and building their teams. And that was that. Then I thought, well, maybe I could do this too.
Well, thank
Yeah.
goodness you did not become a cruise sales operator
Specialist. Yeah.
person specialist, because in
Thank
2009
you.
you win Pop Recording of the Year and ECMA. That's wonderful. How did you? I mean, that's a small juncture between thinking of giving it all up and then winning a
Yeah,
huge
it
award.
was a shock. it was it was a boost. I think it was it was nice because, for me, I think I really needed at that time, especially, like, encouragement, some kind of signs that I didn't have the confidence myself. And it was sort of this confirmation that, okay, the people I'm working with, people that I'm making music with, everything, it does matter. It is important, the things I'm choosing to do and say. Um and I yeah, I'm really glad that I didn't quit, because I'm an all or nothing kind of person. I do find it hard. I know some musicians can work multiple jobs and have families and do, but I just was never able to. I want to do. I kind of want to throw everything in one basket and try my best, and I'm still trying to do that. Still trying,
And I
grasping.
think that's totally healthy. But I mean, fast forward to 2018, and you've had what we would call this a wheen of awards. So
A
lots of awards.
queen.
A wheen of awards.
Queen.
Um,
Queen.
so
Cool.
I mean, Nova Scotia Pop Recording of the Year with Impossible to Hold. So many awards in between 2009 and that. I mean, I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on these awards. They're totally great for exposure and for profile. But you
Mm.
seem like the kind of artist who's really mainly interested about great songwriting, great narrative, great storytelling. Out of all, what's the most important thing to you in terms of musical output and what you create?
Musical output and what I create. I just want to make good quality work that resonates and that makes people feel something. I mean, I think first it has to resonate within you. I mean, before you decide, okay, I'm going to put this out, and then you hope it resonates with other people. Um, but I guess I always wanted to make the kind of music and then assets, musical assets, visual assets like music videos. um to do a music video was like a dream for me, and I mean, I feel a little bit limited by sometimes by revenue and financial resources, but any chance I get to get better at what we do and make something that has an impact on other people. And that also, I think it's important for the musicians themselves, not just me, but the people I'm working with, to feel something in the process when we're performing, when we're in the studio. And to really, I like to set up, projects so that it facilitates, if it facilitates that everybody can grow and has time. Like I don't work well under pressure and stress. I really like to create an environment where everyone can thrive. I wish I could do it more and more, and it goes back to that. Sometimes I feel limited by resources. It's important to me to respect and pay all the musicians and artistic teammates, um, industry workers that I work with. So maybe because I feel like everybody needs to get paid. I I I have to wait a while to get to the next project. But I guess, yeah, I'm driven by those moments where everything comes together, and it doesn't always, like, you have to kind of, I've learned, you'll try some things and they don't always work out the way you hoped, or you might find out a year or two later that, oh, that wasn't as great as we thought it was in the moment. It didn't have lasting power, and to just kind of be like, okay, well, I can't turn back the time. Like, let's just keep striving. It doesn't mean that we're, horrible at what we do.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, but the awards, like, the one thing I love with fun about winning an award, honestly, is that it's another opportunity to thank all the people that you work with, because, obviously my name is on my records, and they're my songs. Occasionally I have some collaborations musically, sometimes with lyrics, but not too often. But nothing that I've, apart from the writing of the songs, for the most part, like everything else is a collaboration, from, recording, rehearsing, to launching, putting on the shows. I love, having the people on my team that, there's nothing better. And we've certainly all been through hiring, you know, hiring people that aren't the right fit, and that's very frustrating. But I've learned not to let that get me down. That, you have to move on and suck it up, and keep trying. So I keep trying to build my team, and I keep working with the people that I love when I can. And yeah, but it's been an interesting ride so far.
I think that's a difficult thing about being like a solo musician. I mean, in Glasgow, certainly there's so many great musicians to pick from, but they've all got so many different projects they're involved with. So you really have to
Yeah,
schedule things. So it is
yeah.
so clear the amount of just hard work and grind that you've put into your career. I mean, there's been 9 albums, one EP, some singles. I'm quite interested in the way that you kind of shape the work that you put out, because I know that nowadays, I mean, with the advent of streaming and all these horrible things, we don't,
Yeah.
maybe some of us are choosing to go away from the traditional model of album tour, album tour, album tour, because there's a lot more to being a musician than touring and albums. It's about the collaborative practice, as you say. What's the kind of, yeah, what's the kind of schedule that you work to? I'm interested.
Oh man. Well, I feel like it's always evolving. It used to be, oh geez, how do we make an album? I mean, that learning how to make an album took me quite a few years, and to kind of take the lead and really be project manager for, my own albums. Like the first album I did, really, it was Darwin Smith, the producer in Austin, that made it all come together. And I pretty organized and can schedule things, but I had no idea how one would make a record and what mastering was and mixing and all those things. And after the first couple of albums, where it was really like we followed that cycle, we're going to make an album, it's going to sound like it has a common thread, it's going to speak to the times, yeah, I think after my album 2015 was when I said I'm going to make the album I've always dreamed of making, that is really influenced by um my influences, my mentors in music, that like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and David Bowie, let's say. Um and then after that, my next album, Impossible to Hold, with 2018, I actually didn't want to follow the same formula of like, let's make an album that sounds cohesive. I was intentionally trying to give each song its own breath, and to sort of let the song lead me. And then I tried to, for the most part, articulate in the studio with the musicians and with my husband, who's my producer and engineer, guitar player, um, what I really felt each song needed, and not to make them sound alike, or uh and we still were kind of following, the touring routine, and putting the album out all at once. But in that process, I learned that things really have been changing. As you said, now I think the focus is on the singles. And if you put an album out without really a long lead time, you're really risking nobody hearing those songs. And then, well, that's kind of sad, because I don't like a whole lot of fillers on albums. Like I'm really trying to put out, each song has its own strong message, and we want it to be heard and shared, and try to get a video, done for as many as we can. So now, with, I think, my next record, my the plan and what I've been talking about with my team has been, we're gonna, slow release the singles, and make sure the focus is on making connections, engaging with fans over each one over time, and then having a big celebration at the end, like maybe a year or two later. And then by then, more people will be familiar with the songs, hopefully, and have that stronger connection. And I think an album release party is so much more fun when people have been listening to the songs for a year or two, and they're in their hearts and minds, and they know the lyrics and whatnot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone,
Yeah.
I think it's difficult to have, to really, really hone in strategy when you're on your own and you're not supported by a big label. I mean, in terms of like folk music over here, I mean, there are folk music labels, but most musicians I know
Hmm.
are independent, and that's kind of the way that
Hmm.
I want to go. I want to be independent, I want to be in control of everything. But when it comes down to like strategy and marketing and all that, it's so
Yeah,
difficult
it's a
because no
lot.
one teaches you this stuff. No one sits you
Right.
down, and I mean, I have a degree in music, and no one sat me down and told me about strategy. So you really have to
Mm.
learn it, trial and error. And I
Yeah.
think that's, once you've honed that,
Yeah.
that's brilliant, and your plan sounds absolutely terrific. You also mentioned that
Oh.
you had a plan for a live album this fall. Is that still going ahead?
Yeah, it's actually being mastered this Monday. And so we're going to start the pre-order on Bandcamp in September 4th, and hopefully
Bandcamp
I can get
Day.
my stuff together. Bandcamp Day has been wonderful. Thanks, Bandcamp. And then it'll be out on Bandcamp the first Friday, Bandcamp Friday in October. And my patrons, I'm going to ask you about your Patreon later as well. But my patrons will have access to it first. And that's been, in that was actually something. It was a show that we recorded in 2015. Before that, I was not into recording my live shows. I really just didn't feel ready. I didn't feel like my performances were up to, not the other musicians, but just myself personally. I was still like learning quite a bit. And And then I was like, I really need to, push myself. So I believed it was important to invest in recording certain shows and productions. And so we recorded my album release at two theaters for an album called It'll Be All Right, which was
Mhm.
a very important album for me creatively. And we were going to wait maybe till the 10th anniversary, but with everything that's happened with COVID and where I'm investing in my online community with Patreon, I really wanted to push myself to provide more content more frequently. And what better time when we're not really touring that much and we have a studio in our home, and my husband is super supportive, than to mix it now and release it earlier. So we just actually put out the Impossible to Hold live album from that release show last May for Bandcamp Friday. And yeah, we're going to release It'll Be All Right live album with my band soon. So it's exciting.
Really exciting. So you've also been doing kind of your denim sessions.
Denim, oh, the denim sessions. Yeah. Yeah.
And what I kind of like about that, I've had a look at a few of them. What I love is that your videos are humorous, accessible, fun, and they probably lift the spirit of the audience. And I totally understand that during this lockdown, it's probably been hard to keep the spirits up yourself. What have you been doing self-care wise?
I just want to pause this interview to say what an incredible interviewer you are. I just really like, I think you have a talk show in your future, Iona.
I would
Um
die. I'd love that. Like, absolutely love that.
yeah, I think Scotland would love it. Yeah, definitely. Grant, like after Graham Norton retires, you could just take over, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'll talk
I think
to Scotland.
Yeah, for sure. I want to be the announcer on the show. Be like, who's this Canadian girl announcing this show? Anyhow, what have I been doing to stay sane and healthy during COVID? Well, I mean, I've learned over the years a lot about burnout, and through that learning about burnout, I over the years as well, I've for myself, I don't drink any alcohol anymore, and that's been a really important one to just stay away from for my mental health, uh, particularly. And I keep a really strict almost every day exercise. And the other things are really just keeping a very scheduled sleep routine. And I mean, I think always would get at least 7, maybe 8 hours of sleep. And so I've been setting my alarm for 7 a.m. since COVID started, and going to bed at midnight. And I get up and I work on my music work, career stuff. I won't say I've been writing many songs, but what I've been doing, and this takes me a while sometimes, is I kind of need these long periods of time to get ready to write. So that could be 30 minutes of, I would like to read about writing, creative writing. Julia Cameron's a big one, Natalie Goldberg, an author that I read. And so I might read a chapter from one of their books and then spend maybe 10, 20 minutes writing or doing my morning pages. But it doesn't necessarily mean I come up with an idea for a song, but I'm keeping that muscle alive. I always start out writing like with pencil and paper when I'm doing my songwriting, and then I move it to the laptop. And then other than that, I've been trying to keep up with like beginner music lessons. So I've never excelled at anything musically, really, but I'm trying to learn bass guitar online through Scott's Bass Lessons. I don't know if you've heard of this guy, but his online website is amazing. And then another piano to brush up on my piano skills. So because I really believe that for me, it takes so much energy for me to get to the music. I'm so distracted by the business, as you can imagine. I know you're so busy. And I really feel a responsibility to stay on top of the business because it's like my livelihood. And how, if I don't, I very much panic about not being able to pay the bills, as everybody probably else does out there. I want to pay the bills, and then I feel calm and I can get to the creative work. But just keeping a routine, and I Dale and I both, my husband and I, decided to go plant-based last November. So I think that's been helping me with just like impulse control and yeah, just I keep a pretty strict routine, just work and working out. That is sounds really boring. My life is
No, this
really
is
boring, Iona.
really, really interesting. It's not boring. That's the thing, is that I think musicians, we really struggle with like keeping a streamline, and sometimes it's
Yeah,
either 100% or 0%, and it's hard to find that kind of happy medium. And our sleep is
yeah,
all over the place. And I certainly agree with
yeah,
you on the alcohol. Like, it's certainly, it's a depressant. No, like, no wonder if
yeah,
you have a big night out, you feel rubbish the next day because of a hangover. But the long term effects on alcohol, it's just, I totally
yeah.
agree with you. I should do that myself too. Yeah, you had extensive touring experience. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a very cliche question, but where are your favorite places to visit and why?
Well, oh boy. Well, we tour quite a bit in Germany. And what I love about touring in Germany, I just find that the routine is a little more like, and we know what to expect. Things are always running on time. We're treated really, really well. The landscape is always, different depending on what region we're going through, but like just some beautiful because we don't always have time to do maybe like tourist things, but sometimes just the view out the window is entertaining enough, when you're driving in the Bavaria and you're looking, you can see the Alps, and or when you're driving through the Alps, and so I really enjoy that. And but I mean, we've been to some wonderful places in the UK. We've been to Scotland, in Glasgow, and Glasgow. You say it. I'm saying it wrong.
Okay, in just English it would be Glasgow. In Scots it would,
Glasgow.
in Scots it would be Glasgow, and in Gaelic I believe it would be Glasgow. Glasgow? I don't know, but there's
Glasgow. I don't know either. Huh.
in
Okay.
English
This
Glasgow.
Glasgow. And we didn't actually get to we were in Edinburgh. Edinburgh?
Edinburgh.
Am I saying that right?
Yeah,
Edinburgh.
yeah, just like
Edinburgh.
Edinburgh, but not Edinburgh. Everyone says Edinburgh. I'm like, no.
Edinburgh. Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Um and driving into Scotland was like a breath of fresh air. It was so beautiful, and Glasgow was we actually arrived and it was dark and we didn't get to spend much time, and I had a very interesting experience performing at a small club. The owner was so lovely and excited that we were there, and I don't remember. I think whiskey was in the title. Whiskey. And I think I made one of the clientele angry, uh and I had a little shouting at, not I was I was shouted at.
Oh, no.
Um, it's okay. Other than that, a really lovely experience. And then in Edinburgh, we were there for, I played at the Bluebird Cafe, one of the tiniest venues I believe we've ever played. I think capacity is like 8 people maybe,
There's a
and
Bluebird
that was
Cafe
really,
in Edinburgh. Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I hope it's still open. Check it out online, but that was really fun. So okay, so I'm not really giving you a clear answer, am I? I mean,
No.
I think I think because I mean, we tour in Germany so much. Like I would say we've probably had some of our best, experiences touring there. But then there's like the other, we performed with my band last summer at the Ottawa Blues Fest, which was such an incredible festival, and we opened for Psychedelic Furs and the Killers, and in terms of performing, like that was like a dream gig opportunity, um, for us and for me, and so it's like we're either playing super tiny intimate stages, and a lot of them on a tour, or every now and then we're lucky enough to get a really cool opportunity, but they're few and far between, where we get to play a bigger stage and share the stage with like a band that we really think very highly of.
Yeah. Well, during lockdown, you've really kind of focused on growing your own Patreon community. I really need to get onto that as well. What has been the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome with the shift of touring to working at home, creating content for this member subscription service? What's the biggest kind of...
Oh, I think the biggest challenge for me again, it's going back to like, I just really want to get to creating and providing really meaningful content. And right now, I've felt the pressure. I've felt very distracted, and the pressure to, figure out how am I going to pay the bills next month, the next month, over the winter. So trying to being very busy looking for resources and money, and I feel a responsibility to continue, making, obviously, holding up to my commitment to my patrons, although they're not pressuring me, and I think they just really want to support, um, and are very forgiving. But I have these like a few monthly things that I like that I have to do. Otherwise, I just feel like garbage, and like and I've been delivering them, so that's okay. But I just want to give them more content, and I want to I want to get to the point personally where I'm really focused on the work, the personal work in the writing, developing that, and creating more audio, so, like more songs for them, and music videos and collaborations. So, but part of building the Patreon, and getting to the point where I can do more collaborations and pay people to do that, so everybody's happy, involves building that online, growing your online community on Patreon. So, um, that's, I think you're doing a fantastic job. I saw that you have almost 50. Am I right?
Almost.
Uh,
Almost.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, but that's like,
I want
that's
to.
fantastic.
It's great fun. It's just getting around to that content creating. It's very difficult when you've got hundreds of emails. I think I'm going to
Yeah.
come to the last question now, and I think this is quite a meaningful one. As I said before, it's really, really clear how much of a hard worker you are, and your career is testament to that. But if you could give your younger self some key advice, what would it be?
Ugh, chill the fuck out. Just, I don't know. I don't know if you have any children watching this interview, but yeah, just I'll do a PG-13 delivery. Uh, I think, I would tell my younger self really to chill out, um and to stay on the path with heart. It's important. Don't worry, as long as you're working towards that and trying to be, a better person, everything everything will work out. It's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes. Um, you have to make mistakes to grow, but I think just, yeah, not to worry so much about taking that commitment to choose the path with heart, um, and focus on the work I wanted to do. I think it was. I feel like I wish I had a earlier start and confidence to pursue it. That's, yeah. Chill out.
Well, thank you so much, Christina. And if you've been viewing this, then I'm Iona Fyfe in conversation with Christina Martin, who is doing lots and lots of exciting things. Her denim sessions air Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Atlantic time on her Facebook, and her denim diaries Thursdays at 4 p.m. Atlantic time on Instagram. And you can find lots more out about Christina on her official website, www.christinamartin.net. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank
Okie
you.
doke.